Bolton. As always, we start with either a prayer, a reading, or a thought, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have got volunteers already lined up. So we've got Reverend Munson of the Awakening Valley Sangha. Close enough? Perfect? Oh, wow. Okay. And then afterwards, Brad Walton. I know there's more to that, but is it Reverend as well? Oh, just Brad Walton. Okay, okay. All right. Adventist. From the Seventh-day Adventist that's going to lead us in the pledge. So come on up, Reverend. Yeah, right here.
Today I'll be reading from the Metta Sutta. To reach a state of mind, one should be skilled in the good. We should be capable and upright, straightforward and easy to speak to, gentle and not proud. We should work to be contented, living lightly and with few debts. We should work to be wise, with our senses being calmed. We should work to avoid being arrogant and without greed. And we should not do the least thing that the wise would criticize. Let us reflect on this idea. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings be happy at heart. May all beings, whether weak or strong, tall, large, medium or short, tiny or large, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or yet to be born, may they all be happy. Let no one deceive another or despise anyone, anywhere. Let no one through anger or aversion wish for others to suffer. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her child, her only child, so towards all beings should one cultivate a boundless heart with loving kindness for the whole world. Should one cultivate a boundless heart above, below, and all around, without obstruction, without hate, and without ill will, standing or walking, sitting or lying down. Whenever one is awake, may one stay with this recollection. This is called a sublime abiding, here and now. One who is virtuous, endowed with vision, not taken by views and prejudice, and having overcome all greed for sensual pleasure, that individual will not be born again. Thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you well and no suffering.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Brad?
If you'd all stand, please, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you to both of you for participating with us in this part of our agenda and our meeting. We will now look at our agenda and organize it. As you'll note, the consent agenda is blank. We will fill that consent agenda. I would assume we'll fill this consent agenda with items that we don't hold. So if we hold an item, it will stay on regular agenda to be discussed and talked about. Otherwise, it will go on our consent agenda as if all three commissioners have voted either for ratification, adoption, approval, or however it's stated on the agenda. I say this over and over because I hear people say, I'm not sure what's going on in the commission meeting and how we get to a point where things, get consented without actual discussion. But we've looked at them, and all three of us have an opportunity, if we'd like to talk about it, to pull it off. So with that, let's start with 1 through 10. Are there any items from 1 through 10 that we need to hold and keep it on the regular agenda?
I have none.
None? I'm the same. How about items 11 through 20? Any items there?
I have none other than that 16 is a watershed restoration initiative. That's what that WRI, if others who don't have access to the attachment. And the 17 is a BYU's allowing the county to use the former Provo High School for some of its vaccinations, and they're going to begin construction in August, but they're allowing the county to continue to use and work until the end of October 20th.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you're fine leaving them on consent?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then items 21 through 27.
For item number 25, we do need to note, I'm fine leaving it on consent, but we can note that the judge will be Judge Scott Cullimore. We're just adding the name Judge Scott Cullimore on 25 and then leaving it on consent.
And that's a temporary appointment while the other judge is gone out of town for a month or so, I think it is.
Yep.
This is a temporary fill.
Right.
You do need a finding on item 24.
So
Right.
we'll want to hold 24 to discuss
24.
for a finding.
And
27 we'll hold, right, to discuss.
27, and then 23. I'm assuming. Oh, not 23. I'm sorry. Well, on item number 23, it's understood on that one that the deletion of the one position will partially fund the new position with additional time-limited money that will take up the difference. Correct?
Yeah.
So there's no additional monies out of the general fund. Okay. And all right. And then, okay, so let me make sure. So it's, which one did we say? We're holding number 24 for sure.
Mhm.
And then 27.
Yeah.
Out of those. Okay, and then items number 28, these are our closed meetings. The only one that I know of is item number 28. Are there any other closed meetings that we need to hold?
And 27, are we holding or tabling until after the closed session?
Oh, that's good. So if we can table that one.
Yeah.
Table that one. That one will, item number 27 will, so just for clarification, we'll go through our regular agenda. We'll go into a closed meeting, and then we'll come out of the closed meeting. So we'll excuse everybody from the closed meeting, and then we'll come out of our closed meeting back into regular session, and we'll address item number 27. So hopefully that's understood. Sorta?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we can strike
And then 29. So if
30, and 31.
So items 29, 30, and 31 we'll leave on consent to strike. And then we will leave on consent that we've approved and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individuals. As stated in number 28, following this regular agenda at this place and this location. And leave that on consent for that. Okay, Alice, do you want to recap for clarification?
Yes, okay, so we're holding 24, tabling 27, and holding 28 as outlined, and then we're striking 29, 30, and 31.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. All right. So with that, then, we will move to item number 24.
Adam Beck, County Attorney's Office. So I just wanted to go over the recommendation, the request for reinstatement of exemption status for 2021. The 2021 year may not be granted. However, if the Board of County Commissioners of Utah County finds that the best human interest and the interest of the state and county are served, it may abate the 2021 taxes, penalties, and all applicable interest.
Were there any other congregations affected by this time lapse? Were there other churches that missed the deadline?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I mean, if anyone from the congregation can maybe let us know what happened that it got missed, and maybe talk about any efforts you've taken to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again.
I'd be happy to
Absolutely.
address
Yeah, come up and then state your name for the record, and then kind of explain to us what happened and let us know, how things will be moving forward.
that. Thank you. My name is Brad Walton. I'm the first elder at the Provo Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're located at 255 South, 700 East, right over by the fire station there on 3rd South. As many churches last year were not meeting due to the pandemic, we were not either. We had just started to meet in person again in January, and our church secretaries were going through all of the mail that had accumulated, and the notification for needing to fill out the form for property tax exemption was missed. It fell between the cracks. I received it in probably the second week of February. It was due at the end of January. I immediately filled that out, sent that in to the BOE, and was informed at that point that my form was late, or our form was late. I was fully aware of the fact that we were late on that. The form did get filled out and sent in. But at that point, as I came to understand, because it was late, it was beyond the board's ability to say, well, we can just forego the requirements on that. It was state law that if it was not filled out and the exemption was extended, then that would have to come to a body like this for adjudication or reinstatement, whatever has to be done there. And so at that point, and my friend Tom had gotten in touch with me just last month and said, what happened here? And I said this was strictly a comedy of errors, that the form that was required did not get submitted on time. And I understand that we missed the deadline, and I have here today, our senior pastor, our associate pastor, and my wife, Linda Walton, our chaplain. Because we are all very concerned that this had happened, and we certainly don't want to have that happen again. And being as we are a church that we're certainly not in the majority in our community, we work very diligently to try to be a positive impact on the entire community of Provo. And we don't want to be a burden to this commission by not having filled out our forms. If I could ask some advice from the council or from the commission, is this a new form that needs to be resubmitted for property tax exemption every year? Because I think that we've filled it out twice in the last few years, and I've been a member of
every
it.
year.
It is every
It
year.
is every year, and
Interesting, because
Yeah.
I've been,
There have been some changes in state laws in the last few years,
okay,
mainly around deadlines.
yes, okay. I'm just curious, because I've been in this position in our church for a couple of decades, and I never even remember seeing this form or hearing of a requirement to reapply for a property tax exemption. We're happy to do so. I just slipped on this one.
And what makes it all the more awkward, you're the second oldest congregation in the state of Utah.
Yeah, no, we have been a very proud Provo congregation since 1887 or 1897,
And not had this issue before.
and this is the first time, so I'm sure glad it fell on my shoulders. So we will make sure that it gets filled out before the end of January next year. And we're here today to, it's the wrong metaphor, but to throw ourselves on the mercy of the commission to hopefully be able to have that property tax exemption reinstated for this year.
so Brad, if I could maybe just talk briefly about some of the historical, and then so it's interesting how this all played out, to a certain extent, because there is a process. And the first time I heard about it was when I read it in the paper, which was ironic. I was like, what's going on? What's
going
happening
on with this?
and I find it a little bit hilarious because, there's, and now I've received, a bunch of emails, and things that are happening that way, and, some good, some bad, whatever the case may be. But I shake my head just a little bit because, one, the employees of the county are doing exactly what they should be doing and following state statute. I want to make sure and point that out, exactly what they should be doing.
I want to assure you that we understand
Yeah.
that I had the opportunity to meet with Bert Harvey, and he said, of course you qualify, of course everything's fine, there's no problem, but the state law reads this.
Right.
And if I say you can do differently, then I'm breaking the law.
Right.
So I understand entirely.
They're in their box and they're playing it the way they're supposed to, and that's why I find it kind of fascinating because before we even go through the process, all of a sudden we see an article come out and things go, and I was like, wow, we haven't even gone through the process. It's like seeing a movie halfway through and determining what the end is before we even get
figure
there.
out what the start was.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't even know. So that part was kind of comical. But there's a couple of things you said. We can't do the reinstatement part, but the part that we have now, this is the box that we can live in.
Within the law.
Yeah, within the box that we have the ability to recognize, and I would anticipate, and I'm making an assumption because I haven't talked to the fellow commissioners, but I'm assuming they see it the same way. Obviously, you fall within that criteria as tax exempt, in my opinion, and because of that, yeah, there was some things that happened on there. That's not the point. But the box that we have that we can work within is to alleviate that tax or the tax, the interest and penalties. You still will have to go through and get the tax exempt status. Again.
Of course. No, I
this
understand where
next
that
year.
has lapsed. We have to reapply.
Right. Yeah.
And Bert made that very clear to me when I met with him.
Yeah. So I think that's what we have on our agenda, is to be able to anticipate that, to look at that, and then come to a conclusion at the end of this certain saga.
Yeah. So we can waive any taxes and penalties and interest this year, and then next year you would just reapply.
Sure. Great. And would that be at the first of the calendar year, in January? I mean, is that when the appropriate reapplication period is?
I think that's right. Adam, is that correct?
I'm not
I
sure on
don't
that.
want to be here next year.
Don't want you here
We
next
don't want
year.
you.
I'm sure.
For this
Wait for the
reason. I mean,
prayers
if you
and all
want to
that,
come
you
to
bet.
the prayer,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. Yeah, come and listen.
Yes, so the deadline for this year was March 1st
Okay,
of 2021.
okay.
So it'd be roughly the same time next year.
This is a new application though, so just get with Bert and he'll have all those details.
Yeah, I would get with Bert and he'll
Yeah.
know exactly, because you're
It's not a
right.
renewal, it's an application.
Yeah,
so.
a new
I
application
can tell
would be
Bert and I are
different.
going to become friends, so it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Bert's a good guy. I'm friends with him too.
Oh, yeah, I appreciated him seeing me, so.
Yeah, so Bert will be able to tell you the application process, when the deadline is, all of those things, and then he can get you taken care of.
Okay,
Just remember, it's going to be new. It won't be
right, not a
renewal.
continuation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask one other question. Do other churches do this on a local basis? Or, we're part of, our church organization is a local congregation, and then we're part of the Nevada-Utah Conference, which is part of the North American division of our church. And I mistakenly assumed that either the conference or the national church would take care of that. And so is this out of the ordinary for other denominations? Any idea on that?
So, Josh Daniels, County Auditor, since we handle this
Yes, Josh.
process, the largest religious community in our state has an entire division of people at their corporate headquarters, if you will, that handle these applications for all of the physical locations in the state.
Okay.
So I think, if you're part of a larger religious organization that maybe has the legal capacity to deal with compliance, you might want to lean on them for that support. I don't know.
I believe that Harold, our pastor, has spoken with them about that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get it from, a
Right.
perspective from our county here, so
They
that we're
still
not
would-
saying, oh, they took care of this.
Yeah, no, they would still put in our local forms.
Sure.
So they would still put in our local forms, but they could do it as an administrative. But they would still need to,
It would still be needed to be submitted every year.
yeah, it would
Just
still need to be submitted every year, and
Right.
it would still be submitted here locally.
Yep.
okay.
And some charities are better than others in terms of being organized. I mean, I can think of another very large charitable organization who is much less well organized, and that would be surprising if you knew what that organization was. So every organization is a little bit different as to how well they're able to comply with all the requirements. But
Sure.
I mean, I think the best advice is if you have some of that administrative support at a larger organizational level, kind of clue them in as to the process, and if they can manage the process, that might be more efficient for you. But
I'm sure it would be, considering my performance this year, so.
Just make sure when you fill out the application that you put in a mailing address. That if you want it to go to corporate, we can mail it there, so that it's not actually getting mailed to your physical building.
Right.
We can mail it to wherever you want, and that way, if there's somebody there that's on staff that's opening the mail regularly, then they'll see it.
Great, okay. All right. Bill, thank you very much for the consideration.
Thank you. All right. With that, then, any further discussion or a motion to be in order?
I will make a motion that we abate the taxes and penalties and interest for on this action.
And I can second that motion.
I would suggest that you add with a finding that the best human interests and the interests of the state and the county are served by such action.
Okay. And I find that the best human interest and the interest of the county and the state are served by abating those taxes and fees and interest.
Being consistent with everybody. Yes,
And I will repeat the second. I'll second that motion.
you got a motion and a second. As described, all in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in, having that discussion.
Thanks, Howard.
Mind, we'll dismiss ourselves from the meeting.
Well, you know, we're at the
Closed meeting portion
end anyway, so thank you. Perfect timing.
This works.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so
Yes,
very
thank you.
much, pastors, elders.
So we'll now be moving into our closed meeting. So thank you for coming to this short meeting. Again, just we will be opening it back up after our closed meeting to possibly take action on an item.
It's like the world's shortest meeting. Yeah. This is the one that I have something tonight that I can't go home.